Welcome. Thanks for coming. My name is Parker Entz. And if you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Ashley Murphy. I am not with Jump. I am a financial advisor who runs my own RIA.
So we're so happy to have you here. So this is how to run an AI-enhanced client meeting cycle. We're super excited to jump in here. A couple things that we're going to be covering during this session. The first is we find as we're kind of out working with RIAs every day, there's often some kind of confusion about how AI actually works. Is it Terminator? Is it Wall-E? Like, what is it? And so we're going to do just like a very quick crash course for how to think about large language model generative AI. We'll also cover some of the best practices that we have come across as we've helped thousands of advisors implement AI in their firms, and also just a couple of compliance call-outs that you might want to just pay attention to. I apologize for my voice. In case you guys didn't know, there's a lot of industry events in October, and I've just been through way too many airports over the last few weeks and too much talking, so bear with me on that. And then, I think most interesting, we'll dig into kind of how to apply some of these AI techniques to the client meeting cycle. And Ashley's going to walk us through how he has actually done that with his client meeting cycle and some of the customizations and other things that he's done. So that's kind of where we're going. Ashley, why don't you maybe give another layer of introduction and let these good folks know about your background here.
All right. Thank you, Parker. So I'm Ashley Murphy. As I mentioned, I run Arete Wealth Strategies Australia. I've been in the financial advice business from 2010. And, well, there's my highlights right there. I'd also call out I am the co-founder of the Global Financial Planning Institute, where we have built the only courses for advisors working with international and cross-border clients, and provide community education tools and support for those advisors. And I would say I'm a very tech-forward kind of advisor, and I was very excited to learn about Jump and its industry-specific focus with working with RIAs in particular.
Awesome. And Ashley is a Jump power user, so he's processed something like 180 client meetings at this point through Jump. So really excited to see how he's applied generative AI to his meetings. And now I'm going to monologue for a while, so if you don't want to stand here, it's okay. It's up to you. So just really quick about me. So I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Jump. So I've been a technology CEO 4 times. Most recently was the CEO of a data and AI company where we were kind of dealing with billions of rows of data that was utilized by data scientists in various industries. I've got some other experience at one of the AI teams at Google Cloud. And then also have been kind of since launching Jump and speaking at a number of events for advisors, education, MBA from Stanford, and did my undergrad not too far away over in Salt Lake City, Utah, in economics. And I've got 5 kids under 12 at home, so I try to squeeze in some mountain biking and guitar, but my skills are declining all the time because of all the other things that we're doing. So anyway, really, really great to be here. When we originally launched, some of our very, very first test users were actually XYPN members, and some of our first kind of evangelists were XYPN members as well. So we feel really grateful to the XYPN community for a number of reasons, and it's just really great to be here. Okay, so large language model-based Gen I for advisors crash course here. We're going to try to make this fun. And I'm actually going to make you guys do something here. This is like some slight participation. I know it's still a little early in the morning. We're going to play a game called Name That Tune. And I have prizes.
So get Shazam out, is that it?
Get Shazam ready. I have some Mr. Beast chocolate here. Feastables. And so there are prizes. So I'm gonna play a song. First person to guess it gets a candy bar. And then I'm going to tie it back to AI somehow. You'll be amazed. Ashley will be the judge. How about that?
Oh, so damn, I love chocolate in the morning.
All
so
right, you get one
right.
Anyway. Yeah, you've earned one already. So okay, here's the first one.
Right, so it's hands up.
First hand up. Okay, here we go.
I already know it. I think. Yep, there you go.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible.
See, this gives
That was
away
great.
our boy band interest that we
Yeah.
otherwise.
We're going to know everything we need to know about this audience by the time this game is done. Do you have nut allergies? No. All right, come grab one of these then. I'll just leave them here for your selection. Okay, next one.
Oh, that was.
Yes, sir.
Lion.
Lion King. What's the song called?
Oh, so that.
You can't win twice.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm just kidding. You get one. Yeah, for sure. All right. This one. How about this one?
I know it. There we go. It's Money by Pink Floyd.
Very
Yep.
nice. All right. Last one. Seasonal. Very nice.
That was the man there.
Okay.
With the
We'll do one more
colored
just for
shirt.
fun.
Back row, black shirt.
Yeah. Close. Very close.
Oh, so,
There you go. Okay. All right.
yeah. She did.
Good job. All right. So why did we do that?
Good question.
So if you start thinking about how AI works, you just used human intelligence to think about patterns, right? So you've heard a lot of music in your life, and you've got this database that's built up of all the songs that you've heard. And then when you're exposed to data, like me putting audio into your ears, you've got this prediction engine in your head. And the most simple version of this is a regression. You're probably very familiar with regression when you do Monte Carlo simulations for your clients, so it's pretty similar there. A really common kind of version of this that's been like a classic AI technique is when you apply a similar type of thing to images. So you take this whole database of like cat pictures and you label it and you say that's a cat, that's a cat, that's a cat, and then you put in a bunch of other images that are not cats. And then you train the model, right? You say these are all cats. And then you give it a new image that it's never seen before and say, is this a cat, right? So this is an example of structured learning, and it requires large amounts of data that's annotated, and it gives you predictions or classifications. So in the same way that you're classifying, ooh, I know that song because I've seen it before, that's a classification structured learning example. There's some funny examples of this where imagine like a pizza factory and they have a bunch of pictures of good pizzas and bad pizzas, and then there's a camera sitting over the conveyor belt saying that's a good pizza, that's an ugly pizza, we can't send that one to Costco or whatever.
Goes to the lunchroom instead.
What's that?
Goes to the lunchroom instead.
Yeah, we send that to my kids' elementary school instead. Okay, so we have 2 candy bars left. Oh, we have more than 2. Now here's a slightly different kind of prediction. So instead of naming the tune, this is going to be a little bit more aggressive here. You have to sing the next line now.
Oh.
All right. So here's the first one.
This is Minneapolis.
This should be pretty straightforward if you've ever been to any sporting event ever. Yes. Very nice. Anyone take the chorus there? Sweet Caroline. Okay, this one's a little different. Someone has to sing it.
There's no lyrics.
So?
Oh. Da, 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 da.
All right, last one. Well, second to last one.
I've got young daughters, so I know this.
No Swifties in this room? Where are we right now? You got to sing it. The chorus, just one line. You raised your hand very enthusiastically.
It's not an easy song to think of the chorus.
There we go. Come get a candy bar, whoever that was. All right, this is the last one. It's a little self-serving. All right, so what we did there is instead of classifying a song, we had an input, and then we try to complete what should the next part be, right? So this is where we start getting into an AI technique that's called natural language processing. So the way that this works is you take the English language and you express it in the form of math. If you remember calculus and you had to do matrices math, and you're like, I'm never going to use that. Some people still use it, and they're building these embeddings of putting the English language into a mathematical representation. And it allows you to sort of see the relationship of different words, and then you can actually calculate mathematically the distance between those words. And then what that allows you to do is to predict what should the next word or sentence or paragraph be based on the prior input. And so this is where we get up to 2017, where there's this sort of like very important paper published called Attention is All You Need. This came out of Google, and this was the breakthrough that led to what you're familiar with as ChatGPT. It's the GPT technology. And GPT stands for generative, which means we're actually generating new content. If we were going to turn that into Name That Tune, I'd make somebody come up and say, write us a song about XYPN Live, and then they would sing a brand new song, right? That's what makes it generative, not just predictive, right? So that would be kind of closing out the gap. Does anybody want to do that, by the way? Okay, probably not. So generative, meaning we're going to generate new things based on the inputs. And then the P stands for pre-trained. So essentially, it's like all of the text that they could get their hands on the whole internet and then some, that are all pushed in as the training data. And then the T stands for transformer, which we don't really need to talk about, but it's basically a way that allows it to look at the whole sentence at once, not just, or the whole, all the text at once instead of just one word at a time or some small bit, which has led to some really amazing breakthroughs. And so the way you can think about this is, if you've ever typed in a prompt into ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, it's looking at what you put in, and then it's thinking about, statistically speaking, what's the most likely thing that could come next. So you could think about it as, if I put in jingle bell, there's probably a 90% chance that the next thing that should come is, this is jingle bells, right? Jingle bells, jingle bells. There's maybe a 7.5% chance that it's jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. And there's maybe a 2.5% chance that it's jingle bells, Batman smells, okay? So statistically, it's just going for what's the most likely completion, drawing upon all of that training data. It's quite amazing. And what's so cool to me is that this type of technology has allowed us to automate things that maybe 2 years ago, even 18 months ago, would have been completely impossible to automate. So let's bring this a little bit closer to home here. If you think about how you spend your week, or how the average advisor spends a week in the life, there's actually a lot of time that is not face-to-face with a client. And there's been research on this. And a lot of it is preparing and following up with client meetings. And so for the first time, because of this GPT type technology, there's a lot that can be automated that previously was not possible to automate. And so we, my co-founders and I, got into this originally because we hated typing stuff into our CRM. And we would do these awesome calls, and then you get to the end of it, and it's like, oh no, I have to go document this in Salesforce for us. And so we were starting to build an AI tool that would take the conversation data from a meeting and would organize it and make it super easy to update the CRM. And my brother is an advisor. My brother-in-law is an advisor, and I've got a close neighbor that's an advisor. And when they figured out what we were making, they said, essentially, dude, because they said meetings are essentially the bane of my existence. And it's not just the CRM update, it's the entire cycle. And what we now know after working with thousands of advisors is that the ideal state would be if I could show up prepared to my meeting without having to go dig through all my old notes. If I could just be present with the client, not worry about writing everything down or missing something in the financial planning data or as a follow-up item. And then when the meeting's done, it might take me an hour or maybe 20 minutes to do all the follow-up. The CRM update, the recap email, the task list, the compliance note, etc. It'd be nice if we could AI that and get it down to 5. And so this is essentially what Jump was created to do. And because this has been a long-standing problem, we quickly learned that advisors have done many things to try to lighten this load over time. There's the DIY power through. There's hiring an assistant once you feel like you're super busy to kind of be a scribe for you. There's the old copy talk, mobile assistant dictation approach. There's a lot of these generic AI tools that are kicking around. There's probably 500 of these: Fireflies, Fathom, Team, Zooms. There's a lot of these kind of summarizers. And those are good, but they often result in creating kind of a Rube Goldberg machine involving Zapier and kind of all kinds of things. And they're not usually advisor quality notes, and they're not usually really integrated with your tech stack. So this is where Jump comes in. Our goal is to deliver an AI-enhanced client meeting cycle. And Michael wrote about this at one point on the blog, talking about if you could even just automate half of your admin work, that would be something like 200 hours saved a year. I said Michael like we're on a first-name basis. He knows who I am, but we're not like friends or anything. So, all right. So, just a couple things before we kind of dive into the how and what. A couple of implementation tips when it comes to applying AI to your meeting cycle. The first is generally, and these implementation tips are assuming that your goal is to save as much time as possible. So generally, if you pick a tool that is focused on advisors, for obvious reasons, that will result in more time savings. Second is, most advisors we talk to do not want to sound like an AI robot. They want to sound like themselves. And so the more time that you spend editing and personalizing the output, the more time you're not spending doing other things. And so a tool that can very easily customize to your style is important. Deep integration with the tech stack. If you're spending a ton of time copying and pasting and kind of moving data around, that defeats the purpose a little bit. And then, of course, we're in a highly regulated industry, and so security, data protection, privacy, very important. And then, of course, just ease of use. And then I'll just call out 4 kind of compliance items. The first is, one of the questions that we get pretty frequently is it okay for me to even record meetings in order to transcribe and summarize them? And the answer is, it is, but you want to make sure there's good disclosure and consent. So you want to make sure that it's very clear to the client that the meeting is being captured. And that is whether or not you're generating an actual recording of the meeting. It doesn't matter. You still have the obligation to let them know that that meeting is being electronically captured in some way. So that's the first one. The second is the SEC has said you need to be very careful about protecting client PII before you allow it to touch an AI model. So the key there is just making sure that the AI model is not learning your client's personal information. And it's not hard to do that, but it's also not a given. And so you need to make sure whatever tool you're using is not retaining that firm or client PII. There is a decision point here around whether or not transcriptions and recordings are books and records. There's no consensus on this. So we see firms, some are treating it like books and records and they're hanging on to those transcriptions. Others are not. They're treating it more like kind of incidental notes or something like that. We could nerd on that on another time. That's just one call out that you'll need to kind of figure that out. And then, of course, security. So with that, we will now give the microphone to Ashley, and he's going to walk us through how he's set up his AI-enhanced meeting cycle. And then when he's done, I will point out a couple of other ways that you can do it based on our other customers. So,
all right. Thank you very much. So, yeah, you know, we've been using Otter, well, we were from, say, mid-2021 until I guess about June, May or June, when we swapped over to Jump. And I guess it must have also been through Michael Kitsis that we first heard about Jump, and I was so excited to see here's an industry-specific AI model that's deeply integrated with the tech stack that we use. So what do we have here? Some errant. There we are. All right.
Oh yeah, I put these in, but.
So what led to us considering adding an AI meeting assistant? It was just clear. It was so obvious. So using Otter at first we found to be very slow. one of the key advantages that we've found with Jump is Otter is an add-on to Zoom. It's then listening to the transcription of the Zoom recording. I would put it to you that Zoom's business, where they're making the majority of their money, is not actually through screen sharing, it's through the outrageous price that they charge for storage. So the storage fee that we have, and I think my firm's got 100 gig or something like that, is $50 a month compared with your old employer where it was several terabytes for a fraction of that. So it was very slow because Zoom, I don't know why Zoom is as slow as it is, but it would take half an hour post a meeting to complete the recording and then add another 5 minutes on top of that for Otter to do the transcription. It also wasn't industry specific, so we had a bunch of different prompts that we would then run on the Otter recording. I think it's self-evident why one would consider this. It's such a productivity enhancer. It's as simple as that. I could answer that first question right there. It saves a ton of time, and that's only become heightened with Jump. So just finishing off a thought from earlier, Jump actually finishes its transcription within 5 minutes of an hour-long meeting, so it's much faster. And critically, to my point about Zoom and the cost of storage there, it is also doing a screen recording as well. I don't know if you've made as much of that as you deserve to, but it's a full screen recording. So if you're sharing your screen and you've got cameras on and so forth, it's doing exactly what we're already capturing in Zoom.
Okay.
Yes?
Some of the other AIs vacillate back and forth. So when you watch the replay, it's like, when I'm talking, then the video of me is showing. And when the client's talking, then it's the video of them. But the whole time the meeting, all three of our faces are on there.
Yeah, I think it depends on the setup that you have and the screen sharing tool that you use. So I use Zoom, as you would have gathered, and it turns my head into a little box in the top right-hand corner, and so it doesn't give you that tennis, neck. Yeah.
It's just showing all the faces the whole time.
Well, no, the screen.
I think for us, in the replay, the default is it goes to who's talking.
Okay.
I think there are ways you can change that, so we could talk after.
So the transcription it's as elegant as what Otter had done in a separate and less functional product. These guys are recording the full screen with a full transcription. You can click to any word that was said in a meeting, go directly to it. One of the sub-threads that Parker and I and the team have had going on is to do with general query searches. So we've recently become enamored of a particular investment, as many of us will. Hi, Amal, by the way. Good to see you. And many of our clients have joined this investment. So we're filling out paperwork, and then months will go by. How much did that client say they wanted to commit to that? Super important number, can't get it right. They mentioned it once in a meeting. OMG, I've now got a tool where I can go to that meeting, to that investment name, and find that exact number, something that used to take God only knows how long to find that sort of thing. So what were the criteria? Well, we're being industry specific, being functional, connecting with a good AI model. I've witnessed with friends of mine, as I've spoken about AI over the past couple of years, that people looked at it once when it first came out. They're like, oh, this is ChatGPT. This is what it does. It's not really ready for prime time. I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing. They've failed to have stayed up with the adoption of innovation and how new models have come along. And so I wanted to see that you guys were using a good model as well as being responsive and appropriate to my tech stack. Okay, so here is Jump in the wild, if you will. This is what it looked like yesterday when I went back to our most recent client surge to see the number of meetings that we had. So we've done, as Parker mentioned, a good degree of customization to define the actions that happen with different kinds of events, if you will. So one event would be a pre-meeting preparation email, which I'll show in just a moment. Another would be, obviously, a client meeting, do a meeting follow-up. And then there's various tasks within that meeting follow-up, including the email summary, of course, but also the individual tasks getting a start at least. I know, for one, I suffer from the worst ever writer's block. I hate to write anything new. So one way in which I'm using AI is to come up with a first draft, and then the ball's rolling, and I can get going and edit what's already there. And that's why this is so transformative for me, is I've already got a draft of a meeting summary, but I was mentioning that just now in the context of the tasks. So it might come up with 75% of the tasks that were appropriate for the meeting. I don't think any model, no offense, Parker, any model is quite at that point where you just set and forget and not edit. You would be foolish to do that. So we are still looking at our meeting notes, but we've condensed what was a very tedious, and this is probably understated for everyone, is the amount of mental horsepower it takes to go through. What did we say there? What do we say we would do? What do they say they would do? Think through, think. Instead of that, it's already drafted there, and it's so much easier. So I can honestly say that within 15 minutes of a client meeting finishing, 5 of that just waiting for the transcription to complete, 10 minutes I've done the client email follow-up and all of the tasks that are to come from that meeting. We then have a draft ready to go that we can send to our client. Okay, so this is the prompt that comes to mind when I look at this is all of the different tasks that are going on, and at the next level of development that we plan on taking it to, we plan on customizing it for specific meetings. And so we all have our own prospecting process. For us, as you can see in one of the meetings here, the third one, actually also the very bottom one, discovery meeting. That's a very standardized agenda. We're looking for very specific things in that. What if we spent some time with Jump and really worked on our prompt engineering to get exactly what we want out of that specific meeting, and the prompts are different for that meeting compared to a regular client meeting somewhere else along the client lifecycle. Just seeing if anything else comes to mind as I look at that. Onboarding, discovery, and account application. Another very specific meeting in the prospecting process. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a post that we're kind of going to the most exciting output I think that we've achieved from Jump in this demonstration here. How are you doing with time?
Let me just make one quick comment. So the first thing that we always want to try to help with is getting a super high quality meeting note drafted, 95% ready. As you said, it's not 100% ready, but call it 95% final draft that's ready to review, and then we want to get that into the CRM as the permanent note. Most of the advisors that we work with, they generate kind of a monolithic, here's the note for the meeting. One thing that's been really interesting about what Ashley's done is that he has gone deeper into the actual capabilities of the CRM and had a more customized mapping between fields and then kind of the output. So, yeah.
Thank you. And to that end, what we've done is really come up with micro prompts for specific things. So it'd say, give us a 2-paragraph summary of the general meeting. Okay, that's the first object. Next object, what's going on? What major events are happening in the client's personal life? Next, what are the client's tasks and to-dos? What is the lead advisor to-dos? What's the paraplanner's task to-dos? What are the topics for the next meeting? And that is key. I think that right there, what I just said, topics for next meeting, I think would fill an auditorium next year if that's ready to go, because what if it could do the prep? What if it could look at precise FP, look at your documents, look at all of these areas, as well as had the prior context and say, this is, with everything going on in the market as well, this is what this client wants to talk about, given that it has access to the emails and all that other information. So what you can see on the screen is these compartmentalized questions, and then we put that together. Shamefully, we actually are using Zapier to compile that.
There's no shame in that. So just to maybe dig in, so you can see there's a line here, 2 children aged 2 and 7. So the reason that that's showing up there is because at some point during the conversation that came up. Yeah, question.
Is there a way to upload previously recorded meetings into the software
Yes.
You can, yeah, you can upload old files.
I actually use Jump for off-label prescription. I was recently interviewing for a paraplanner position, and I think the interviewee was a little bewildered why I wasn't taking notes at all. I was totally present with that person. Well, that's because we're using Jump with his permission and her permission, and later used that to then come up with micro prompts again. What were the strengths and weaknesses, with areas for development, what they say they're interested in, where they want to develop further in their careers, and so forth. And it was as good or better than other tools that I've used for the same purpose.
We've seen that use case, yeah, interviewing, for sure. Yeah, interview notes.
So Ashley, are you, the micro prompts, are you tying those into the fields in Wealthbox, or does the Jump team help you with that? And then second question, you said it also looked at emails, and how do you think it did?
Yeah, so out of the box, it comes kind of loaded up with defaults. So if, for example, you're on Wealthbox, it's... Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate it. For those of you that aren't, it's going to have some default meeting types in there, usually discovery meeting, annual review meeting, COI meeting, internal team meeting. And those prompts will just be in there. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to be good at prompt engineering. Those will just work. If you want to go a step further and really dig into customize how you push data into Wealthbox or customize the format of the note, you're welcome to try to do that on your own, or our team can also help you do that. So it's not on you.
And does it, I was under the impression it could not see the client emails.
It depends on how they're synced into Wealthbox a little bit. So we could talk after. Yeah.
We actually use Salesforce, not Wealthbox, specifically for the ability to customize. And I should just mention, unfortunately, the screenshot we're looking at right now is actually not the post-meeting note. This is a post-meeting event. I misspoke. This is capturing a summary of the meeting, but not the post-meeting note. So that's coming up in just a second. Post-meeting notes to CRM field. This is our what I was explaining a moment ago, the micro prompts that we've created, support advisor, to-do list, topics for next meeting. What were the general these aren't in order necessarily. We don't care about the order because we're using the Zapier automation to then structure it correctly. This is what it looks like in Salesforce. And this is why we moved to Salesforce. It's because this didn't exist. And I don't know why. It's kind of beyond me why it doesn't exist. But we've created an object that didn't exist, and that was the meeting object. And a meeting object has many attributes. It has attendees, it has a date, time, it has a format, it has topics that they want to discuss. It also has, as you can see here, what were the general topics discussed, what's going on in the client's life, client to-do list, lead advisor to-do list, support advisor to-do list, topics for next meeting. That's in the CRM and appended to the meeting object. So then we're taking this, a screenshot we don't have ready, is the final version that my associate then goes over, and it maybe takes her 5 minutes to read it and see in natural language, in proper second-person voice. It was great meeting with you. One of the initial issues was third person, which was weird. Like an advisor met with their client to talk about, they're like, well, that didn't sound right. So we've changed it to second-person voice. And I think the proof is in the pudding. To be done in 15 minutes and moving on to your next thing is a quantum leap. Here is a different task here. We can see post-meeting notes going to the CRM. So these are pre-populated. This is what Jump, not entirely. This is actually what Caitlin had ready to go. But Jump is pre-populating. Here are the tasks that go straight into the CRM with the assignee, the due date, the whole description of what that task is.
So maybe we'll pause there for just a second, and I will just show briefly, because I know that most of the room is probably on Wealthbox. So let me just give a couple of examples for how this would work in Wealthbox, and then we'll come back around to kind of wrap up on impact, et cetera, and then we can do questions and everything. So here's an example of how this would work in Wealthbox. So this is the Jump app. This is app accessed in the web. You can see we've got integration with Wealthbox, if anybody's on Redtail, and then, of course, as you saw with Ashley, Salesforce. We integrate with the major virtual meeting tools, so Zoom, Teams, Meet. If we have any GoToMeeting or WebEx holdouts, bless your hearts, but we do integrate with that, as well as phones. So we can support phone calls as well if you want to pull phone calls in. And then we integrate with Google Workspace for email and calendar. So what this allows us to do is pull the audio in. I should mention we also have a mobile app, and you can use your laptop if you're doing an in-person meeting. That's how we can pull the audio in from that. So we get the audio in. We can upload a file, as you asked about. And if you didn't have a chance to record the meeting, you can also do a dictation. So there's a lot of ways to get the audio in. And then, as Ashley mentioned, that's going to process within 5 minutes or less of the meeting ending. And then what we're going to do is first, the AI assistant is going to figure out what kind of meeting was that. And you can use our out-of-the-box meeting types. You can see here we've got, client meeting, discovery meeting. There's some out-of-the-box versions. And then you can also set up your own custom meeting types if you have a proprietary order of meetings that you do. And then based on that classification, the AI assistant's going to say, okay, that was an annual review meeting. I know what I must do. I'm going to generate a note, a recap email, CRM update, and a task list. So what you see here in the middle is that meeting note that Ashley had customized. This is the out-of-the-box version. It's going to have kind of narrative discussion of what occurred during the meeting, personal facts that you'd want to remember for future meetings, questions and answers that came up during the meeting, so you have a record of those. What did you recommend? What did you quote to them in terms of service levels and fees? And then we also pull in all of the financial planning data that comes up during the meeting as a reference for yourself or for an assistant. So what you can see here is various facts that came up during the meeting that you might want to incorporate into their plan. All of the information that you see here is there because it came up during the conversation. And so, you can see that they talked about different amounts of their life insurance coverage and balances in accounts, those kinds of things. We're also going to flag facts that might affect your recommendations from a fiduciary perspective. So an example here is it says time horizon approximately 15 years until planned retirement. So that's there because at some point during the meeting, the client said, yeah, I'd like to retire maybe 15 years from now. So that got pulled in as a time horizon insight. Again, this is completely customizable. We've seen advisors have very detailed forms that they talk through as part of onboarding, and they'll just mirror those forms right here, and then the AI assistant will fill in those form fields as a part of the post meeting. Whatever the note looks like, we consider it a 95% done draft. And with AI, it's very important that you do something called keeping the human in the loop. And that means you want to check it before you push it into your permanent record in your CRM. So we have full text editing capabilities here. You can change anything in the note, review it before it's final. And then when you're ready to push it into Wealthbox, the AI assistant's going to try to go find that right household or that right client contact. And you can, check on that. And then it's going to respect any custom fields you have around that note. And then when you sync that into Wealthbox, in this case, that would create a new note and attach that to the client. So that's how we would do the note flow. Yeah, please.
Even when you sync it to Wealthbox, can you, it's over in Wealthbox, and then you realize later, I forgot, I missed something. You can still go edit it in Wealthbox.
Yeah, for sure. No, you have to get it right. We can never edit it ever again. So it just saves it into Wealthbox, and then you can go into Wealthbox and make additional edits if you need to, for sure. Yeah.
You've mentioned customizing your own. You've got out-of-the-box meeting types. You can customize them. I'm really curious about that. I'm a Jump user, and I might rival your 180 meetings at this point.
What's your name?
Christina, emphatically.
Okay.
I make my own prompt and I put it into Ask Me Anything, and I get kind of my summary, but I bet there's something.
Yeah, we need to save you. Okay, so the question was, how does customization actually get done in Jump? So behind the scenes, we have this whole orchestration layer. And if you didn't hear, you said Ashley? No, sorry, Christina. You're Ashley. Christina, sorry. So Christina is using another feature that we have called Ask Anything, which I'll show you in a second, as kind of her own prompt. And so the question is, how do we get that into the note generation so that it just works every time without having to do that step? So we could use the client meeting, just a routine client meeting, an annual review or something as an example. So the way that this would get customized is here we've got a client meeting note. We can see that the destination for that is Wealthbox. So we can open that up and we would switch it over to AI generated custom. And then you would take whatever your little prompt was that you just described and drop it into the description. And if you want, you could refer to kind of some of what we have there as a reference. And then you'd want to drop in an example of your favoriteest note ever that should be framed because it's so good, and put that in there. And then the AI assistant will imitate your best note that you've ever written for all the future notes. So that's how we get closer to your style. And our team can help you do this. So today, this is admittedly a little bit manual to kind of go in and kind of mess around with prompts. We're working on a point-and-click customizer engine that you can just kind of, click around instead of having to think about typing. So in the meantime, our team can help you with that.
Can I ask one more
Yeah,
question?
please.
Is there a space where, let's say, somebody's name was Jennifer with an F, and I met a Jennifer with a PH, and
Yeah.
it's spelled incorrectly, and there's 300 Jennifers in there. Where do I change her name?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So there are two spots that you can do it. One is if you go to the meeting, and we'll wait for the hotel Wi-Fi. There we go. So we can go look at the meeting, and we've got kind of our recording here. So this is currently me. So if this needs to be Parker with a PH or whatever you were saying, Jennifer with a PH, then we can rename here. That'll fix it for like the speaker names. If you need to fix it in the notes, what you're really asking for is a find and replace, which is coming. So we don't have that today, but it's coming. Yeah, great question. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about PII and the training and what's stored and what isn't and how we're
Yeah.
ensuring that we don't have social security numbers in your training model?
100%. So we host everything in either North Korea or Iran.
Got really great rates.
They had the best rates. It's amazing. Yes. So this is very important. So there's a couple of things. This is very sensitive information. It could rise to the level of sensitive healthcare information. So we actually treat it with HIPAA protocols for that reason. So we use kind of the HIPAA standard for how we think about data protection. The AI models that we use do not retain any of the data. And so you can think of the way that we've set up our data pipeline as a big fancy calculator where the data goes in, it crunches all that matrices math that I mentioned earlier. It returns the answer in the form of summarizations and the other outputs, and then it clears. So it never is trained, retrained, retained. It's not going to learn from your data in that way. And that's actually a very reliable way to make sure that that data doesn't get caught up in a model, because that would be bad for a number of reasons. And then beyond that, we do all of the normal things that you would expect a modern software company to do. SOC 2 Type 2. We do kind of all of the things we have to do around that, like hiring a professional hacker to try to break our system and telling us if there's any vulnerabilities, those kinds of things. So did that cover? Yeah. The other piece was like social security numbers and things like that, right? Yeah. So we do have the ability to auto redact that kind of information. So you can see here in my settings, I have transcript redaction choices. So I can decide to automatically redact social security numbers, passport numbers, driver's license numbers, state ID numbers, credit cards, ABA numbers, account numbers, etc. And that's happening at the transcription level. So it's never expressed in a database somewhere. It literally is never transcribed into text.
So how is this software retraining? It's not using the PII, but it's getting better.
Yeah, good question. So we utilize a constellation of what's called foundational or pre-trained models. And so we don't maintain our own model. We don't have $1 billion lying around yet. You guys should sign up, by the way. Just kidding. And this is pretty common. Like most AI companies do it this way. So there are these foundational models that are getting better all the time. And then we just use those and we adjust all the settings and other parameters. So it's not learning the way you're thinking. It's learning because we're changing the settings to map it to what you need, if that makes sense. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about pricing and also training and support for that?
Yeah, for sure. Yes, I'll give you the quick pricing answer. It's approximately $100 a month for an advisor. It's $25 a month for an assistant that doesn't need to capture new meetings. They just need to go in and do all of kind of the administrative work. We do have a discounted tier if you're just starting out. It does everything in the software, but it just limits kind of the number of meetings. So then when you have a busier schedule, then you can kind of graduate up. So that's the short answer on pricing. And support, so it works out of the box. So you could hypothetically never talk to our team and it would work, especially with the Wealthbox integration. If you want support, we've got chat that's available in the app. In fact, we could fire up a chat right here if we want. Hi guys. We'll see how long it takes. I think the average is 10 minutes or something. If you want to jump on a call, we can help. We can help with that too, and with the customizations. So let me just do a quick flyby of a couple other features, and then we'll just open it up the rest of the way for questions. So we covered the note. Let me just show you the email. So this is an AI-generated recap email. Ashley has a slightly different way he does it, but the way that most of the advisors do it is they're going to load in their favorite email they've ever written after an intro meeting, and then that's going to get imitated here. The AI assistant is going to fill in the email draft based on what was actually discussed during the meeting. And so this was sort of ready within a minute or two after the meeting ended, and then you can open this up in Gmail as a draft and make your edits, and then when you send it out, it's properly archived along with the rest of your electronic communications. So that's how we handle the email. You can have different email templates for different kinds of meetings as well. We talked about the tasks, and Ashley showed an example of that. I'll just call out one additional thing for Wealthbox users or Redtail users. We do integrate with the workflow functionality in Wealthbox and Redtail. So if you have a bunch of predetermined workflows, you can actually trigger those from Jump. The way that works is the AI assistant suggests an action item. So you can see an example here. The AI assistant suggested to send out Right Capital logins based on the conversation. And that was from the advisor saying, I'll send you the Right Capital login, something like that. You can flip that over to a workflow. And you can see here the AI assistant identified from the list of workflows in Wealthbox that we have a workflow for that. And so that gets matched. And then if I were to save this, this would create 2 tasks in Wealthbox and kick off 2 workflows. So that's how we kind of work on that post-meeting action item.
And actually, you set up something similar for Salesforce where you can work with your workflows there.
I haven't done that yet, but that is something that we should do. I didn't know about it until just now, actually.
We can all, if you're on, is anybody on Salesforce in the room? We do integrate with both tasks and cases if you use cases. So that would be how we do that. Okay. Couple other little bells and whistles things. If you see something in the note and it's been a day and you're thinking, I do not remember talking about that because I've had 6 meetings since then. I can barely remember what I had for breakfast. So you can actually select something in the note and click explain, and the AI assistant's going to show its work and give you the quotation that led to that insight showing up in the note. If you're using our recording feature, you can then click on the timestamp, and it'll actually take you to that moment in the meeting itself. And then you can play the tape back, which I find to be helpful if it's a more technical part of the discussion, maybe some estate planning topics or something where you actually want the detail and you want to go and review it or have an assistant review it. This will also take open-ended questions about the meeting. So you could imagine like a mini chat GPT about the meeting data. So we could say, what were the client's concerns? Or what about the Roth? And then that's just going to go into the meeting data and answer whatever question you have about what had happened during that meeting. So that's the Ask Anything feature. We do also provide some basic analytics about talk time. So who hogged the mic, right? You can click on the timeline and see what in the world were they going on about for 15 minutes at that moment. It'll go right to that moment in the recording if you're using a recording. We also pull in some sentiment around what were they happy about, what were they grateful for. That could be an interesting way to queue up a discussion about maybe asking for referrals. What were they afraid about or confused about? That'd be a thing to make sure and resolve before we move on. So, okay, I think enough demoing. Let's just let's go to questions. And I guess just last thing would be, I'll just leave this up there because in case folks have to slip out. Well, actually, Ashley, do you want to just maybe 30 seconds on overall impact for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been profound. There's no doubt about that. It's been phenomenal to be able to customize it to our workflows and deeply integrate it into the functions of our business. As you can see, we've had 180 so far, and it's just saved a lot of time and improved quality, and it's been fantastic. That's it.
All right, so I'll leave this up. If you decided you wanted to sign up while at the event, we are doing an extra month free. If you're not at that point, you can just learn more with the same QR code. So yeah, let's go to questions.
Can you talk more about kind of the roadmap? I think like stuff like speaker diarization and stuff like that may be hard to do now, but what's the plan for those kind of things in the future?
Yeah. Well, so what do you mean by speaker diarization? Because we do some diarization now, so maybe say more.
Because like in a recent meeting, I mean, we're trying it right now. One recent meeting, we had my boss and the client on that side, and I'm going on Zoom. So
I see. Yeah.
the difference between my boss, and they're both men, so maybe it's a little hard.
Yeah. Okay. So diarization is a technology that takes the fingerprint of your voice. So you can imagine a single file that has multiple people speaking, and it kind of figures out, oh, that was actually 3 separate people. We already do that for in-person meetings. It is on the roadmap to better handle a situation where you've got 2 or 3 people on one Zoom frame and then somebody else on Zoom. That's a little bit weird because we don't want to, anyway. So yes, so that is absolutely coming. We have a lot more that we want to do for pre-meeting prep. Ashley showed you his example of pre-meeting prep. Here's kind of more of an out-of-the-box example. So what's happening here is Jump is sending an email before the meeting, going into Wealthbox, pulling out all those old notes, summarizing them with things you'd want to remember as you walk into the meeting to really nail that first 5 minutes. So we'll do things like, what have they said is important to them? What are upcoming life events? And then conversation starters. So we had one recently that was ask about the new golden retriever. And the advisor was like, I completely forgot that we talked about that 6 months ago, but they asked about it, and the advisor, and then the client was like blown away that they'd remembered from 6 months previous that they'd adopted a dog. So I think there's some really interesting kind of fun moments there.
And that's on the meeting prep side.
That's on the meeting prep side, yeah. So that auto generates. Yes, right here.
I'm not using anything like this, but a colleague, a friend of mine is, and I don't know if it's yours or something else, but they said there's like a third character, there's a third attendee of the Zoom meeting that's the note taker.
Yeah. That's how it works.
Some of my clients would like that, so that's why
Yeah, do you want to speak to that?
I think it's all in how you present it. Why wouldn't they like it?
Just to answer the question, that is how we do it. So we send essentially an attendee to the meeting. You can customize the name. You can put your logo on there if you want, so it feels a little more native. I think just saying something very simple as, hey, this is a note-taking tool that we use to make sure we get everything down from our meeting so I can focus on you and not taking notes. That's going to work 99.9% of the time. We did have one where the client said, don't capture this meeting or the IRS will come and take all my gun stash. Occasionally you will have that kind of
The
thing.
IRS will take the guns.
The IRS wants your guns. Yes.
Yeah, right.
So I like how this works for in-person meetings. I'm guessing, like when you do a Zoom
Yeah. So we are working with some of the largest broker dealers in the country who tend to be very conservative about these kinds of things. Therefore, we have a lot of options for how you want to do disclosure. For a Zoom meeting, typically what will happen is a little banner will pop up that says, this meeting's being recorded. It can play an audio as well, so that's pretty easy. We can also customize the image of the attendee badge and have a message on there if you want. So that's another way to do it. For in-person, this is a little bit funny, but we can play an audible disclosure when you hit the start capturing the meeting button. Most people don't want that. I think the most common is just to say before you turn it on, just a manual disclosure. Hey, is it okay with you if I take a voice memo of our meeting for my notes? Just something simple. Yeah.
So I work with clients who are first generation immigrants from India. Sometimes the whole meeting may not be in English language. Sometimes I use other languages. Can it translate here?
We have clients. The question was, what other languages do we support? So I know of So English is the only one that we consider kind of fully available. In more of a beta mode, we've got Spanish, Portuguese. We had one Russian client or one Russian language user. We should check on the specific, like the specific dialect or whatever. Yeah.
How many hours should I expect to get up and running if I start from zero?
Yeah. So out of the box, no customizations, 5 minutes.
There's like enough customization to really get all the horsepower that this can provide.
Yeah. On a scale of super intense, picky with my notes to what I've seen today is the best notes I've ever seen. That's incredible. Where would you place yourself?
I'm pretty particular on this.
Okay. I would say probably 90 minutes, and maybe a couple of passes with our team.
I would just say, so good out of the box that I've been a little lazy, and I haven't done this, and now I'm like, damn, I got to do it.
Yeah.
Like, really effective out of the box, like, now
Apologize if I missed this earlier, but on the meeting prep side, so if I run a solo firm, only have 30 clients, so a lot of stuff is still in my head, so take paper notes, but I want to get away from that. If I have the two-way email sync between Google and Wellbox, and then I have my text archiving solution, my RedChat or whatever, that also feeds into Wellbox. In the meeting prep, is it then going through historical emails that may have had a to-do list and trying to figure out whether or not that item on the to-do list was actually done, and then sort of prompting me to make sure that I've asked, okay, did they actually get that done?
Yeah, it can. It depends a little bit on how you're syncing the emails into Wealthbox. We can do it as long as we have access to those through the Wealthbox API. And just, again, it kind of depends on how so we could talk about it. And then, you can have it surface, hey, these tasks are still open or something like that.
Okay, so there's a prompt somewhere where I can then ask the AI tool to say, assuming the email sync or whatever gets set up the right way, to say, go through all, the last 3 months worth of contacts and generate a, summary to-do list.
Yeah, and what we would ideally do is just adjust your pre-meeting template so that you don't have to manually do that. It just automatically comes, right? Yes.
I also have a tip for that, which is if you don't use text expander, that's a really great tech tool, and you can write it once and then repeat that into an ask anything. But my question is actually about custom fields, and I've been using Jump this year, so I'm familiar with
Well, thank you.
Wellbox user. And I'm afraid to do custom fields because I've been going to copy over what is currently in my custom field. And the follow-up question is, in the meeting prep, can I pull from those custom fields in a very specific way, like birthday, job title, salary, like some of these custom fields that I might have that would be really great in a meeting prep to go, oh yeah, that's dog's name, right? Like those, like, so I look great in meeting.
Yeah. The short answer is you can today. Our team will probably need to help you with that today. So yeah, just reach out and we can help you do that.
But that's exactly what we did. Is on the back end they can point a custom object, like with that meeting object I showed. That's exactly what we did. Is we pointed it from the jump custom object to our custom object in the CRM.
And it doesn't copy over, so like when I push on a meeting to a custom field, it doesn't copy over what's currently in that custom field.
So that one we should chat about.
Yeah,
because
that's different.
So this is coming where you'll just see a side by side, and you'll see the old value and the new value next to each other, and then you can choose which one to retain.
Yeah.
But today you do need to be careful.
It's not an issue for us because every meeting is a new instance, so we want to copy what's a blank field every single time. So.
Yep. I just realized we're a couple minutes over, so thank you so much. If you want to grab a little card in the back, but yeah, appreciate it.